All right, we are going live from the first night of Passover. Here we are. Passover Sameach to everyone, and welcome to Manny's Super Civic Cyber Conversations. This is our effort to bring civic engagement programming to you. For those of you who are not sitting around the table waiting for the seder to end or waiting to eat your food, or not celebrating Passover because you're not Jewish, or you are Jewish and you just don't like Passover, we are going to have a conversation about how to save small businesses in San Francisco from extinction with my friend Ben Bleiman. Before we do that, I just want to let you know that we're going to be talking for 15-20 minutes and then give you the opportunity to ask your questions to Ben in the Q&A box. So please feel free to just type your questions in at any time. Also, if you go to the answered section in the Q&A box, there will be a link to become a sponsor to Manny's. And so if you want to think about how to save Manny's from extinction, the way you do that is becoming a sponsor. So thank you so much, Ben, for joining us. Ben Bleiman is the president of the Entertainment Commission. He started the San Francisco Bar Owners Alliance. He himself has owned, I think, over 11 bars on and off in the city and currently owns a couple as well now, and has emerged in this crisis as a real advocate for small businesses, keeping us informed and also demanding a seat at the table and letting us know what is being talked about. So Ben, thank you so much for joining us and thank you for being here.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So first, I thought it would be good for you to just set the scene for those watching and those who will be watching afterwards. What is going on right now, and what's the state of our small businesses? Kind of like, where are we in the journey, and how bad is it?
Sure. So if small businesses were a boat, it would be a very small boat, and it would be on par with the famous image from the movie Perfect Storm, where the boat was headed up a wave that was 1,000 feet tall and smashing into a million pieces.
That was with Russell Crowe, right?
No,
that was Master and Commander. Sorry.
No, I think it was with one of the Wahlbergs.
If anyone knows who was in that, please type it into the Q&A box. Thank you.
It's either Donnie or the other Mark Wahlberg. But the secret, and what I'm trying to get out there, is that boat before the Perfect Storm was capsized, filled with holes, and sinking, upside down and sinking. So everybody's pointing toward this giant wave or this hurricane or this tsunami or whatever you want to describe it as. But the boat was not going to make it anyway. And so for me personally, the coronavirus was a huge precipitating factor in putting small business into their consciousness. But small business was dying, and we were dying quickly before this went down. And that's what I was out there trying to fight for and sound the alarm for before this.
Yeah, and you were doing that for so long before we got to this point. And you're right, everyone is talking about how to save our small businesses. It's on everyone's mind. When you and I talked before all this, and then I want to get to what needs to happen to save our small businesses, but when you and I were talking about this right before shelter in place, you said that this very well could be an extinction event for small businesses in San Francisco. We have not been hearing in the news of a lot of small businesses saying they're not going to reopen. Is that because people have not made their decision yet, or it hasn't gotten so bad that people are at that point yet?
Well, I think we have to look at two different factors here. One is how long and how painful the shelter-in-place order is going to be. And just for the record, I'm a big fan of the shelter-in-place order. I think San Francisco is leading the nation. I think we have a lot to be proud of. So, the shelter-in-place order is not something that I'm out there saying we need to lift or that we need to go back to normal. So depending on how long that is, we'll see how bad the carnage is. But the fact is that a lot of these businesses weren't going to survive anyway. And this now is causing them, and I've spoken with a lot of them, but I just know this, from the research I've done and from the conversation I've had, a lot of them are just going to decide not to reopen. The climate in San Francisco is so, I don't know if you want to use the term anti-small business, but it's so onerous. It's so incredibly difficult to open and maintain a small business in San Francisco that that it's not worth it. And if you're down for a few months and the option is taking out a bunch of debt to then return to a normal that where you make no money and you slowly sink into more debt, it makes absolutely no sense to reopen. So I think this is an extinction event. I think it's just it rapidly sped up what was happening anyway. But if we really want to create a society here where small business flourishes, and if we really truly value our small businesses, we need to fundamentally change the way we treat small businesses in San Francisco immediately. Right.
So let's get to that, my friend Ben. What needs to happen for this to not be an extinction event? What needs to happen to save our small businesses?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Before we ask that question, I think it's worth talking just really briefly about why small businesses are worth saving. Yeah. And I just think, I think if everybody were to think about small businesses and really think about the value that they add to our communities and our society here in San Francisco, that they might kind of reconsider how we treat them. So economically, you can't argue with the impact small business has economically. I don't have the exact numbers. I'm actually still waiting on them from I guess they're busy, but from some of the statisticians in City Hall. But I guess they actually are really busy right now. So they probably should not provide me that information right now. But we have a request out through OEWD for them. But I mean, we're talking hundreds, thousands of jobs. We're talking billions of dollars. Just nightlife alone, which is bars, restaurants, and clubs, is responsible for $7-point-something billion a year of economic activity. And you multiply that by all of the small businesses, all the barbershops, all of the florists, everything, all the bodegas, right? So economically, you can't argue with it. But then I just think culturally and for our community, I mean, imagine Calle 24, Bente Quattro. Imagine that about the small businesses, right? Like the small businesses are a part of our community. Imagine the Castro without the small business. Imagine North Beach, right? These are the reasons San Francisco, it's literally part of the fabric of aesthetically and wonderful. Our communities, how we feel, it's how the people meet each other. It's where people connect. It's where people have coffee, where they watch the election, they go down to Manning and they get civic. So for me, it's the reason I love San Francisco so much, and I've been here almost 20 years, is this connection between high-minded culture that's very conscientious and nature, and the nature is all around us, right? But the culture really is inextricably linked with the small business community there. So that it is absolutely crucial that we do everything in our power to protect them and save them.
It's the reason why I moved here. I spent a summer in 2010 in the Inner Sunset, and I remember going to Arizmendi's every morning for coffee and a baked good, and it was such a beautiful community around that. Just that one bakery on 9th and Irving, and when I thought of where I wanted to move back after graduating from college, I remembered Arizmendi's on 9th and Irving, and that was the memory that brought me back to San Francisco.
Yeah, Mark DeVito and I visited here. Mark owns, he did one of your talks, but he owns Standard Deviant. We own Teeth Together. We visited here when we just turned 21 years old over that summer, and we stayed in the Haight on Clayton and Waller. And every day, we were just 21, so we'd go down and we'd go for happy hour at Hobson's Choice, and we just watched the craziness and the incredible community that went around. And we were both sold in that moment. And it took us, a couple months to realize that we were going to move there. And I moved about a year and a half before him, but that was it. And I couldn't agree more. It's exactly what brought me to this city. And the idea we've done to our small business community over the last really 10 years it's absolutely like heart-wrenching for me.
So I'm an optimist. I believe, and some of our conversations that we've had about this, I feel like, you and I, you start from everything that is wrong, and then you provide solutions, which is what I love about you. You point out the problem, but then you also create a path forward to solving it. So So take me on that path, Ben. What needs to happen to undo the onerous things that have been done to our small businesses to
Sure.
save them so that San Francisco can stay the rich place that it was that brought us both here?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So first of all, can't do it alone. I'm kind of like a one-person rogue small business activist, but I'm not operating alone, and I'm working really closely, and I have been for months with the chamber, the new chamber, the new look chamber with Rodney and Jay and Amelia, and it is awesome. They're kicking ass, and I'm just so thrilled about the work that they're doing with the new look district merchants with Mario and that team. You know, they have massive reach for the district merchants. So we can't do it alone. We got to do it all together. Not one night can go out there. So building coalitions is really important. But you know, and then what I just said before is making sure that we have buy-in from the general public who maybe doesn't know how bad things are. But then, okay, we're just going to get into specifics, right?
Yes.
So there is it's a 9-point plan right now. I'm sure it could get expanded or below. The first and most important thing that we need to take a look at is we have one of the most complicated and kind of mind-numbingly impossible planning codes in the nation. Any city in the nation. It is a planning code that's been piecemealed together. When you talk to people in the planning department, they criticize the planning code. When you talk to citizens, it almost doesn't work for anyone. And I feel like it's a really good time to look at really serious reforms around the planning code, specifically for small business. I don't want to wade into the affordable housing battles of the past. I don't want to look at, you know, office space for tech companies. All I'm talking about is if you have a business of a certain size and breadth, the planning code should work for you. The options you have ahead of you should be flexible. They should be open, and the planning code should really exist in order to make small businesses thrive, in order to create an environment for them to thrive. So I don't want to dig. We could spend the next 2 hours talking about the planning.
Can I just ask one quick question about that, which is, do you think that the incoming planning director will be more amenable to making changes and making sweeping reforms?
So far, everything I've heard is a big yes. But, you know, the planning directors tend to come in with and have to face the political realities, right? So it's up to us to create a politically convenient situation so that planning director can follow through on all of the reforms that we need. Because if we don't, then they can't, right?
Got it. Okay.
Yes, from the people that I know and trust in San Francisco government, people have a lot of there's a lot of goodwill and a lot of enthusiasm for the new plan.
Real quick, also, we have a question from the audience. Michael wants to know, what are examples of changes to the code that would help small businesses?
Sure. So right now, things like flexible workspace it's forbidden, right? So if you wanted to be one thing by day and another thing by night, you're forbidden by law. People have run into problems who aren't even trying to sell stuff or be a private club, but just provide a space for people, maybe a co-working space, right? Which we've noticed in many situations, that Mr. Waffle debacle, right? And all these things that have gone down. So that's one thing. The conditional use and discretionary review should be an exception, a rare exception. Small businesses should not have to get conditional use permits. I'm not talking about thumping nightclubs or, you know, things they're selling alcohol. Selling alcohol already has de facto conditional use permit. I'm talking about everything else. The fact that any small business owner in a space 1,000 feet or less is having to go through a 12 to 18 month process to get a conditional use permit, which costs $10,000, is insane. And not to mention, there's a group of predatory neighborhood groups out there. Many of them, every neighborhood has them, and they basically come to you and say, look, you got a conditional use permit, you either pay us or we're going to argue against it. It's legalized extortion for mom and pop businesses. It makes no sense. I understand it if you're trying to build a big development, luxury housing, whatever. They should play by a different set of rules than we do. We need to like create a situation for small businesses that work. So, and discretionary review. If you are principally permitted, which means the words could not be stronger. principally permitted. It's like the strongest two words put together. And right now, one person can pull you off and force you through a discretionary review, which, let's make no mistake here, is pretty much exactly the same thing as conditional use requirements, right?
Right.
It's insane, and it completely dissuades people from opening new businesses. Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going.
Their existing business to provide flexibility.
Okay, so let's keep going.
All right. So the next thing is, and this is not my favorite thing because it gets into like greater issues with income disparity and universal healthcare and all these giant intractable issues that seem to me to be mostly federal issues that we need the full force of the federal government, and clearly we don't have that. But we have a health and safety crisis on our streets. And the small business owners are the ones who pay the brunt of that. And, when people don't feel safe walking out on streets, when small business owners have to become mental illness counselors and when small business owners are the first people on the front line of our homelessness crisis, it's impossible to have the small business that we want, and it's impossible in business. I have very strong feelings about, like personally, I don't think billionaires should exist. I don't know why they exist. I don't think they should exist. I think if we were to focus on those issues on a massive scale, that then we could fix some of the issues that San Francisco is dealing with. But certainly there is a pact that we all pay into, but even more so small businesses, where you pay your taxes, you pay payroll tax, unsecured property tax, you pay all sorts of different taxes to the city, and they have to provide a minimum basic level of service. I mean, that is just the arrangement that we have. And that pact was broken. The city failed on that. And I don't want to point any fingers. I think the problem was bigger and maybe wasn't necessarily the city's fault. But the pact was broken. And businesses were paying for basic level, like to not have feces smeared on your door is just a basic, it's a basic act. And it shouldn't be up to you to have to handle public health and public safety issues as a business owner. So not my favorite one, but we need to talk.
Important.
We need to talk about it all the time. Yeah. The next thing I have is, so we're looking at massive vacancies going forward. Yeah. And music right now, playing a guitar in a business is illegal in much of the city. And it's illegal because the zoning forbids it. So it's a issue. But it's also illegal because in other parts where it's allowed, it's required a conditional use permit. And we're talking one poet reading poetry in front of a group of people is illegal in most of the city. So, I think we should legalize music. I think we should legalize art. I think we should legalize performance. We should scrap rules and we should allow it everywhere. Yeah. Right? And I think we have systems in place to regulate. We're not talking about having a thumping nightclub in the outer sunset on every corner.
Right.
And here's where I go on with that. I actually think that performers and artists, I actually think they can be
What are you drinking?
This is a beer I left over from a tenant who moved out because he lost his job downstairs in my in-law unit. So I don't usually drink Stella, but when I do, it was free from a tenant who left in a small.
Okay. This conversation is sponsored by Stella Artois.
Oh, yeah.
Drink responsibly.
Anyway, so I actually think musicians and performers should be the economic driver of the recovery. If we open up spaces and allow people to display their art, to perform, and we're not talking about DJs playing house music here. We're talking about it's illegal to do this. Mariachi bands are illegal in like 60% of the businesses in the city. They're actually illegal, right? So legalize music. The permitting process for small business is a joke. We get put through the exact same hoops that big business has to go through. We get put through the same hoops that Salesforce do when they want to open their tower right? This is the same hoops we have to go through. There should be a separate process for small businesses. Businesses of a certain size, they should have separate permitting officers, separate inspectors, people who are in City Hall, who are pro small business, who want to make it happen, who understand the concerns, who help us navigate the bureaucracy. And right now, it's just a luck of the draw. When you go to get your permit done, you may end up somebody who cares, and you may end up somebody who doesn't give a shit about you. And so I am asking for that. I don't think it's that hard. I have a lot of friends who work in different areas, in the planning department, in the building department, even in the police and the fire. Every department has people who are super pro small business who would get the opportunity to focus on our issues, right?
Yeah.
Another one, taxes, fees, and licenses. I don't have to really.
What that looks like is a small business desk, in the building department and in the planning department, so that our stuff gets expedited.
I think we want to focus on the result and not how it gets done. I think other cities have a million different ways of doing things, but I'm very skeptical about one size fits all. I think we look at how we do things and come up with a way that works. But at the end, small businesses should be permitted, like 6 months, 3 months to 6 months. You're done. Your permits are done. Everybody bent over backwards. They made it happen, right? And it's totally doable. That's more permitting fees. It's more licensing fees. Gets me to the next one. We need to take a look at fees. Fees are out of control. If you have candles in a bar, they charge you one fee. This was a good one. If you have a photography studio that has nude models, you have to pay the police $280 a year in a nude model fee. These are all real. Yeah,
I know that with that I had over $2,000 in false alarm fees this year. There's a fee just to have an alarm. You have to pay $80 a year
when it goes off. And when it goes off by mistake.
But just to have an alarm system for some reason is an $80 fee.
Right.
And then there's a weights and measures fee that you have to pay to the city. If you have a point of sale, you have to pay $180 a year to the city.
Like the more point of sales, the faster you can help your customers, the more fee you pay. It's absurd. It was built in a different time when government, I think, Manny, you and I are similar, and this is why I love what you do. Like, I believe so much in a strong government. I believe government can solve problems, right? And that is why I hold government to such a high standard. I want it to work and not be a talking point for Sean Hannity, right? And when you start talking about that, they have the liberal from San Francisco on to talk about all the fees, right? And it just gives them fuel for their stupid, ignorant fire that makes me crazy, right?
Yeah.
But so I believe in it. I really think, but we need to take a look at fees and all the taxes, all the licensing specifically for small businesses. The next one is kind of a third rail, but I'm not afraid to say it. The healthy SF system, the HCSO system is failing, and it's failing small businesses. And the reason it's failing us is because it's regressive. And so if you have over 19 employees, you are required, to pay $200 per employee per month into an account that employee can only use for vision and dental. They're forbidden by law because of Obamacare for using that money for anything but vision and dental. So it's a $200 per month per employee vision and dental.
People can't use that. Your employees can't get healthcare with that?
No.
What's the point of it then?
Well, so it started before Obamacare. So it was a healthy. Then Obamacare made those exact HCSOs illegal. The city decided we're going to keep them because there are people in the city who we need to pay for the Healthy SF program for everyone, not just for the employees.
Got it.
And so so when the employees don't,
you have small business owners paying for the health insurance of folks supposedly for their employees, but maybe actually for other people.
Employees don't use it. I mean, there's something close to $100 million in unused funds. And when the employees don't use it, the city takes the money, right? You get it back, right? So
is that a state thing or is that a city thing?
San Francisco, local. So look, it was
who can reform HCSO?
We could do certain things through the supervisors and the mayor, and we could do certain things by ballot measure. But the point is not to scrap Health ESF. There's people who rely on Health ESF for their healthcare, right? The point is that smaller businesses, it's completely regressive for them because $200 per employee per month for a business with 19 or 20 employees is different than for a business with 200 employees. Also, different for some businesses that have 19 employees make 10 million bucks a year. Some make 1 million bucks a year. They all have to do the same thing in. Forget about the fact that if I were to buy a vision and dental plan for my employees, it would be $30 a month and not $200.
Right.
You need to come up with a fairer system of administering it where the smaller businesses with lower revenues aren't paying such a high share because it is absolutely destroying our small businesses. We don't need to throw the whole thing out. We want to have some sort of safety net. I totally agree. We got to catch up where the federal government is lagging in the state, but right now, it's absolutely destroying small business.
We do have a lot of questions, Ben, so let's try to get through the next couple as quickly as we
I've
can.
got 2 more. So 3 more. So one, formula retail. They're right now the number's 11 for formula retail. I don't know where this 11 number came from. Makes no sense to me. We have local businesses like Suvla and Mixed Greens.
Yeah.
Neighborhoods would welcome them with open arms. They can't open it.
Yeah.
I don't know what giant evil company has
11
locations.
I know. It's like Ike's. There was that whole battle about Ike's, but it's like a local sandwich shop that, you know.
So anyway, we need to take a look at the new delivery culture, the apps. We need to really examine how they're affecting our businesses. Shout out to Supervisor Safai for really tackling this and sinking into it. I'm really excited for some of the things that he's working on. And then finally, this is my final thing before the questions. Right now, if you go shop at your local hardware store, a box of nails is 2 times as much as Amazon, right? And the reason it's 2 times as much is because of all of the pressure that shop is under. We need to flip that. Amazon needs to pay. Amazon should be 2 times as much as our local store. The store should be the cheaper option. Why aren't we incentivizing shop local instead of doing marketing around it? Why should it be painful to shop local? So those are my things.
Well, but how could, just real quick question for me on that, and then we'll get to the folks who've written in their question. How can San Francisco help make the nails at the local hardware shop cheaper than Amazon?
Well, so on a macro level, the entire structure's flipped on its head. So I'm talking about flipping it back where local businesses don't bear the brunt of all of these things. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. But I think everything we look at should be looked through that lens.
Okay.
If Amazon wants to do business in San Francisco, they should be paying more than the small businesses who are providing a community service, right? That's my personal feeling.
All right, Ryan McCarthy asks, Ryan McCarthy says that he agrees with you that this is a massive issue killing small business. He was referencing street homelessness and the crisis on our streets. How is it that our city supervisors and local government haven't recognized this, and why aren't they championing these efforts to make the process easier? Well,
so I know Ryan and
maybe he's referencing another issue.
Yeah, well, so
I guess his question is why haven't folks not woken up to this?
I mean, they have, but they just disagree on how to confront it, and they're locked in a logjam, right? Like it's a stalemate. You have a group of people who say we need to do this. You have a group of people who say we need to do this, and then they go to war against each other. And when elephants fight, the grass suffers, right?
Mm-hmm. Why? Because they trample over it?
Yeah, we're the ones who get trampled while they can't decide on what to do, right?
That is such a colorful phrase. Where did you hear that?
I don't know. Next one.
Michael Chidambaram asks if there's a POS fee for every terminal. I think the fee, is there one for every terminal?
From what I remember, they come in and see how many terminals you have, and then they assess your fee based on that. But I could be either way. It's insane. But
I do know there's a fee if you don't have a customer-facing terminal. So if you have the old squares that turn around, you can get a fee for that because you have to have customer-facing. Mark DeVito, I'm not going to ask that question. Aaron asks, what about Healthy California? Does San Francisco get money from the state to pay for SF residents' healthcare?
I don't know. I'm sure there's no. As far as I know, our HCSO was rendered obsolete when Obamacare came through and covered California, which I think you're referring to, is what the state is trying to push everybody into. The argument that I've heard that the city makes is not everybody can afford covered California, so we need to provide a safety net for the people who fall through the covered California net. But why is it on the back of the smallest businesses is what I'm arguing, right?
Right.
I don't want to get in a big conversation about what to keep and what not to. All I'm saying is that small business shouldn't be faced with this burden in order to stop these intractable issues.
Someone named Damien asks a question, which I'm going to ask a version of it, which is there a way that business owners can actually take advantage of the current state of things? Is there a way that we can not just survive what's happening now, but maybe even thrive from it?
Yeah, so the poet warrior Rahm Emanuel once said, don't let a good crisis go to waste, right?
Yes.
And I feel that very strongly. I actually I'm fired up over this right now. I think if we all can get behind, and look, forget about my 9 things, whatever they are, right?
Oh, I like your 9 things.
Well, they're good, right? It's a good framework for starting the conversation, but we're fired up over this. We actually have a once in a generation or two opportunity to reset. And, one of my favorite politicians in San Francisco is Raphael Mandelman. I love Raphael Mandelman. I just think he's super smart and thoughtful and careful. And, he said to me the other day, and I don't think he'd disagree, be upset with me saying this, but he said, like, it was like everybody knew what we needed to do on all these problems, but we just stuck. We just couldn't do anything, right?
And now we have an opportunity.
Now we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to really re-examine things and start fresh, right? So,
are you encouraged that as part of the recovery, small businesses will have a seat at the table, and perhaps we can implement a suite of changes to help us, to bring us back? Maybe we do have an opportunity to get some of these things done. To
be determined. And I know that Rodney is he's filling up this small business task force that the mayor put together. I commend the mayor for putting that together. I hope to see a bunch of small business leaders and thinkers at that table. I think, to me, it's like, let's start with the small business. Everything else will follow. Why do you think Google and Salesforce want to be here in the first place? It's because of our Arizmendi's.
We have time for 1 or 2 more questions, and then we do have to go. Lucia asks, we are going to have an extremely cautious and fearful public in a post-corona world. Do you think extreme safety standards are going to have to be put in place for public places like restaurants, bars, arenas, etc., in order for people to feel safe? And ID proof that you've had serological tests proving that you're considered safe.
Yeah, I think that's actually a big thing. That's the hot thing right now is the the antibodies tests to see who's having. Here's how I see it playing out. I think that the shelter in place will be lifted sometime in June, July, late May.
July?
I don't know. It depends on how the tests come and where things go, right?
May 3rd. Hello.
Small businesses, and actually think bars and restaurants will be some of the first to be able to be open. I think we can kiss the Chase Center and the Giants season and everybody goodbye. I don't think that large, massive gatherings of people are going to come back until there's really testing and things in place.
So like the mayor was asked about Pride today. She did not have a very encouraging answer about Pride. Outside Lands still hasn't figured out if it's going to stick around or not.
I don't see how you responsibly have those without a vaccine or without some ridiculous testing regime in place that allows people really to know who's got it and who doesn't. Yeah.
We're gonna close on the also colorful Mark DeVito. He asks, Ben, I heard speculation today that 70% of restaurants will be gone or substantially altered after this. I presume he means kind of nationally, or I guess big picture. Do you agree, and do bars face the same fate?
I think bars are a little bit less fragile than restaurants. I think, restaurants have run on incredibly tight margins, tend to have really bad high rents, and they were already the canary in the coal mine. I think bars have a non-perishable, product they're selling, and all these things are for the most part non-perishable. Not Mark's beer, that goes bad real quick, but the other things are not perishable. So, I think that bars might be able to weather it. Put it this way: if small bars that don't serve food go out of business and are shuttered permanently from this, everybody else went out of business. I think that that is going to show that just nobody could survive. But I don't know. The future is extremely uncertain.
Are you hopeful?
I am. I don't know. You could be hopeful while also kind of recognizing that the suffering and destruction that we're going to see is so real. And personally, I think my personal future seems like we might have a chance at getting this. So I'm not feeling that existential dread. Well, maybe I should be, but I'm not. But no, what gives me hope are these things. Right? It does, because we have a once in a generation opportunity to change the game here. And if we could put those in place, then we can grow back the garden, right? We can have a garden that flourishes instead of one that's just filled with weeds, basically.
I love all your metaphors, Ben. They really are wonderful. Before we end, I just want to ask everyone to check out my screen. One way that you can support Manny's, my small business, is by going to the link you see above my head, floating above me. It's joinit.org/o/Manny's. It's also in a Q&A box in the answered section. There's a link. Manny's is shut down, it's closed, and we could really use your help because we're not making any money right now. This is the only way that we're able to make money to stay open, and I would love your help. I need your help. It's Passover. Be a hero. Be a good Passover night one person, and go please to joinit.org/o/Manny's, the link above my head, and please become a sponsor or make a one-time donation. I would really appreciate it. Ben, thank you for pounding the pavement and for beating the drum and for doing all the things that you've done before now to save other small businesses and to make things easier for us. And I hope that you and I can link arms together and hopefully utilize these opportunities to get some of these reforms made so that generations in front of us of small business owners can reap the benefits of this, and we can just make this easier so we keep San Francisco amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Tag us at Welcome to Manny's, and thanks to Sam, Jupiter, and Ram for making this happen. Goodbye and good night.